You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Crete.
Etienne here, Forex trader and founder of Desire to Trade. Welcome to episode 110 of the Desire to Trade podcast. Today we're going to do something very different. But before, I want to remind you guys about the Facebook group. It's one of the best places where you can get all the content that I'm doing and interact with other serious traders on a daily basis. We have a strict non-spam policy that is being respected, and that makes it a good environment for you to learn. If you want to join, simply check out desiretotradecom/group. That's going to redirect you directly to the Facebook group, and I would love to connect with you there. Now let's get back to the show. Kevin Hunt, who's been in a previous episode, reached out to me to offer doing a reverse interview. I know a lot of you guys asked for me to be interviewed on the podcast, and that's pretty much what we do in this episode. Kevin asked me about the story that was behind me trading and how I was able to tackle the learning process. I think this is going to be very valuable if you are at a point where you don't really know what step to take and you don't see the way coming. It's going to show you pretty much how I did it and what are the things I did and learned over time. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to know. I'm always open to do more talking and to share more lessons on the podcast, but I would love to hear your thought. Connect with me in the Facebook group or send me an email afterward and we'll chat. Now I'll let the turn to Kevin and he's going to lead the podcast. Please help me welcome the temporary podcast host, Kevin Hunt.
Hi, Etienne. How are you doing?
Good. What about you, Kevin?
Oh, good, yeah. It may seem a bit strange to you. What it was last week or maybe the week before, I was listening to another one of your podcasts, and it just seemed to me that, this so often, we hear little bits about you and your method and your trading and little bits about you as a person in between, comments from the people that you're interviewing, but we never get to hear the full story behind your trading adventure. So I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to get in touch with Etienne and see if he wants to be interviewed on his own show. So I'm hijacking your show today, and we're going to interview you and see how that goes.
That's nice. I think I need to thank you for offering to do this interview. I think it's going to be cool. And I've had many people asking for it, so it's going to be interesting to see the other side of the picture. And I get to talk more, so good.
That's good. Right. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It should be good. Okay, so a similar kind of format as what you do with the people that you speak with. So, Etienne, what's the one quote that you live by or that inspires you?
I have this one quote on my computer desk, and it's there at all times on all my computer. It says, "Remember that guy that gave up? ? Neither does anybody else." So that's pretty much a quote I have in front of me all the time. And it's about not giving up, about always continuing, because as soon as you give up, everything is over, basically.
That's right. Yeah, you can fail and fail and fail many, many times, but until the day you give up, you still haven't failed, have you? Even if you're failing each day. So you just got to keep going and keep trying.
Exactly.
That's great. Okay, so anyway, let's get this going. I love hearing about the diversity of those that I've met since I've been trading from all walks of life and different parts of the world. It's evidence that people from anywhere can become successful in the market. So, Etienne, tell us a little bit about yourself, your life, and what you were doing before you become a trader.
Yeah, well, there's two parts to it, because I thought of myself as a trader a long time before I became a trader, meaning a long time before I was trading full-time. I thought myself to be a trader, basically. I thought I would be a trader. So there's kind of two parts to it. But when I started to trade for the first time, I was in university, and I've had the chance to study supply chain management, kind of a topic that inspired me at the time, that made me want to learn more about it. And I had the chance to work in different companies, some bigger companies here in kind of around Montreal, and do some work in logistics, basically. So either as a supervisor, working in an office, type of the 9-to-5 job, or more like the 6-to-4 job you would see that people do a lot of times. And that's what I was up to basically before. And then when I graduated, I worked a little bit, and then I transitioned to this trading thing about a year ago. So yeah.
Just a year ago?
Yeah, about a year ago, full time, yeah.
Okay, so what exactly was it that first got you turned on to trading, and how did that happen? What was it that actually made you decide to go for this and have a crack at it?
It's interesting. I think I had kind of an interest for trading since a long time. Well, not trading per se, but let's say the market and investing and making money from the stock market overall. So back in 2013, that was the first time that I opened an account in trading. And basically, I had been through a couple of books on investing, like The Intelligent Investors, a couple of Warren Buffett stuff. And I thought that might be interesting, but I wanted to get more involved. And the only kind of reference I had at that time was my father, who had been kind of investing without too much success. Basically, the only thing I heard was that he lost some money trading. Well, not kind of investing more. That was kind of not super clear. But then I said, well, I kind of said to myself, I'm going to try to do something better than he did, like to prove him that I'm able to do it. And I'm going to study trading, study investing, whatever, to be able to trade and make money. And as you probably know, it didn't turn out the way it was supposed to turn out in my head. But that's pretty much the day it started. And then I kept trying to learn, trying to go through the process. And that was pretty much the start from there.
And was that Forex you were trading then, or were you trading stocks? Or?
Yeah, I started with stocks, and then I opened a Forex account. I stuck on a demo account for maybe 2 weeks before thinking it was too boring to stay in that demo account. So I went on a live account, and that's where things got a little bit bad. Yeah.
Just 2 weeks, you jumped right in.
Well, I'm not sure if it's 2 weeks exactly, but I think looking back, it's about 2 weeks. Yeah. Really not too long. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you just went for it, yeah. And which style of trading are you working with now? What are you doing? Is it day trading, swing trading, or what exactly are you doing at the moment?
Right now it is swing trading based on, basically I look at zones on higher time frame, like the daily chart and the weekly chart. And I swing trade based on those on multiple time frame. So I try not to go lower than the 4-hour chart because I try to like still work and do some stuff with the podcast and like, you know, how all these things. So that's what I've tried to do, not go lower than the 4-hour chart and do kind of swing trading.
And it frees up a little bit of time to do other things as well, I suppose. So just on average, roughly, I know you can't be specific, but on average, how long would you expect to hold a trade open for?
It depends. Because I'm doing multiple time frame, I might enter a trade on like the daily chart, which could last like 2-3 weeks, like at most. And the 4-hour chart usually is going to last 3 or 4 days.
Right, I see. And which currency pairs are you trading with?
I trade about 15 pairs that I follow on a daily basis. So all the major pairs, plus a couple of cross pairs.
Okay. And is it your own criteria that you're working with, or is it something that you learned from someone else and you've tailored yourself? You know, what is it you're actually using to take criteria to take the trades?
That's interesting. I don't believe we can come into trading with our own stuff all the time because I believe we take pieces from like everyone. So that's kind of what I did over time is I picked some pieces from, including Steinweinstein, which is about the market phase principle. So looking at how the market moves, what the market is doing overall. And then I picked some parts from like other people online, some blogs, some books. So I came up with kind of an approach of looking at the big picture first and then trading based on the Bollinger Band. So I look at basically reversal setup with the Bollinger Band at these specific zones. And that's pretty much all I trade. With some candlestick with that, of course.
Which kind of time Bollinger Bands are you using? I mean, how does that work exactly? This is something I've covered a long, long time ago when I was going through different aspects of trading and trying to find my way through it. So how exactly does that work? Could you talk us through, say, I don't know, when you sit down, look at the charts and you see criteria hit, can you talk us through roughly what it is you're looking for before you take a trade?
Sure. So for me, the Bollinger Band is like the main indicator that makes most sense to me. And that's like to me, because I know people don't like to use it, don't know how to use it. And that's totally fine. But to me, it kind of makes sense because you have basically moving average at the middle. And then the upper band and the lower band are basically deviations. And when I was studying back in university in statistics and supply chain, I came across these concept of the fact that like 98% of the variation are going to be between two standard deviation of the mean. And that's what you see in the Bollinger Band. So you have this moving average plus two standard deviation, which means that 98% of the time, price should be within the two bands. So basically what I do is I look at candlestick setup at these top bands, so the upper band and the lower band, and that's where I enter trade. So if I see a candlestick pattern that I like at these upper and lower band, usually it's going to be like engulfing candles that I like to trade. And if I see this at those bands, breaking outside the Bollinger Band, for me it's a sign that there's a possible reversal setup happening.
I see. Okay, so when you first started working with this, what was the learning process? How did you actually, starting from scratch, starting from day one, how did you approach the learning process and actually teach yourself to do what you're doing at the moment?
From day one, there was no learning process from like the first day I started to trade. I thought I would just be able to master it. And then over time, I developed kind of a learning process, which I'm really all about kind of repetition and trying to become better every single day. So for me, I don't mind kind of screwing up and like making mistakes as long as I can get better every single day and as long as I can progress. I'm kind of a big fan of practice, which means like you have to do the same thing all the time, which is why I only have like one trade setup right now. It's not like 5 things that I trade. It's only one thing because I repeat that every single day, every single trade. And that's basically how I see it. So I'm also a big fan that goes with the learning process of learning from kind of what you do. So learning from your mistakes. Hence why I like to journal a lot and like to review and reevaluate and look back at how I performed. Because I believe this is like the main way that you can learn from yourself.
Sure, yeah, I can see that, yeah, because the big mistake that so many people make is they'll try something for a very short period. And what you're saying about sticking with it, even if you can see mistakes or it's not quite working, they'll jump from one thing to another because that's not working. Well, I'll try something else. But you really do need to give it that prolonged period to actually get some kind of consistency and be able to actually gauge what kind of results, you're getting from it, because a short time, no criteria, you're not going to see a good result or an accurate result over a very short period. You do need to push that further. It's like when I'm working with Kim and she says to her members that, she'll say, use my criteria. If you want to try different ways or different aspects of working with it, that's great. But don't just do it for a week or two. Do it for 6 months and then see if that's actually working. So you really do, like you say, need to stick with it and keep trying and testing whatever theory it is that you're trying. You need to test it over a prolonged period, don't you?
Of course, of course. And I also believe in the fact that we need to come into trading with this kind of look of like, how can I be better? Like, how can I be better? How can I improve? Because I know a lot of people repeat the same thing for a long time, but they don't move forward because they always do the same thing. And they complain about like what went wrong and what didn't happen well. But if you come in with that look of looking at like how you can improve, how you can become better. And that's what I do every day because I journal every day. So I look at like what I did, how I can become better. But if you come in with this perspective, like for sure you're going to improve over time. And it doesn't matter if you kind of trade badly now or if you don't trade well now, you're going to improve if you have this kind of look for new aspect and improvements.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. It's, okay, so you've reached a point now, I take it, where you're consistent with what you're doing, even though you're still learning and maybe improving on what you're doing. But are you a consistently profitable trader now, or are you still working your way towards that?
No, right now I'm constantly profitable. Although I will say that depending on how you look at your performance, especially as day trader also, you probably see this, but as a swing trader, there's like periods of like losing period and winning periods. So you might be like in a small losing period and you might see yourself as like a bad trader, but overall you're profitable, which is an interesting aspect.
You've got to look at that longer term. In fact, there was something I'll put on my Twitter account. I had a couple of bad weeks and I was feeling really quite down about it. But then I look back over my yearly results and I put them up on Twitter. I put the year-to-date results up and you think, why am I fed up? Why am I annoyed? Why am I feeling down about it? Looking at the overall picture, which is what it's all about. It's a long-term game. Yeah. So, okay, so when you go through those, those difficult times and during that learning process, what is it that kept you motivated through all of that?
I would say there's kind of 2 things. And the first one is being able to hang out with different traders. Because you get to see like how people live things and how they perceive things as well. And that sometimes changes like all your perspective. I'm a big fan of like meeting traders in person, trying to like get in relationship with more traders and also kind of listening to inspiring stuff. So I think a good way is to go back on my podcast, look at a few interviews that I liked that kind of fit my style, just listening to them. And that always like keeps me moving forward. So especially you and Kim, I think you had good interviews. So
throwing the compliment back at you is another reason why I listen to your podcast. Although your style of trading is so different to what Kim and I are doing, and many of the guests that you have on your podcast, very, very different. But just listening to their journey, listening to the problems that they've faced and the way they've dealt with those problems, we can all learn from each other. Even though we're trading totally different styles, we can all help each other in that respect and learn from each other as well. It's a good tool to actually improve your trading and your mindset, I think.
Yeah, and I think always reminding yourself about the progress you're on, like the path that you're on. You probably have like an end goal that you want to reach. And you probably have like things to do. Like it's not going to be like a full straight road and like everything going fine. So if you have a bad time now, it's just going to get better. There's no other way.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. It really is. So when you say about meeting other traders, your travels in Asia and places like that, is that linked with trading or is that purely holiday time or business? Where does the Asian travel fit into everything?
Yeah, you cannot you cannot draw a straight line between trading and travel. So for me, wherever I am in the world, I'm going to meet traders. Like, it doesn't matter. So if I'm going to be in Thailand, I'll try to meet people there. I'll try to meet people when I'm here in Montreal. And for me, it's just the passion of travel, which I discovered by studying abroad a few years ago. This is really what I've seen that I like to do. So why not traveling and trading at the same time if you can do both? So it's
Absolutely. It gives you that freedom to do it as well, doesn't it? That's the biggest draw for me, is the location freedom.
Yeah, and I know you're also keen on this. So it's pretty good to do it if you're able to do it, of course.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Although I will say trading and traveling requires some more kind of, I don't want to say practice, but some more improvement. So there's things that you have to put in place to make sure that you trade and travel correctly. And this is something I'm still working on a little bit because it's still tricky for me to trade and travel. So I have to adapt to that.
I know exactly what you're saying. It's like, it was the last time or the time before we were out in Thailand, a friend of mine came out there with us and he's trading as well. And, you could see sometimes that being in a totally new environment, it can really affect the way that you trade. You can be distracted, but you've just really got to focus on what you're doing. It's only, I don't know how long you actually spend. How long do you actually spend in front of the charts, say is it a daily basis that you'll be looking at the charts?
Yeah, so I made the mistake my first trip to try to trade a forward chart, which means I had to carry my cell phone and look at the chart during the day, which was really tough. Not that tough, but kind of tough because you have to think about it and you have to open your smartphone and sometimes lay straight on your smartphone. Yeah. And then the second trip, I said, okay, so this time I'll try only the daily chart. But that time there was almost no setup in the market. So then I kind of didn't trade that much for these 3 months, which is now I'm trying to find kind of a middle ground between the two.
I see. No, that makes sense, yeah. Okay, so looking back at over your trading career so far, what was your worst trading mistake or your worst failure?
I think there's maybe two parts to it. There's like one technical mistake, which is a trade I took on the S&P 500, like the SPX 500 a couple of years ago. And that was probably the worst trade, the worst loss in my career, I believe. Because of the fact that I had this one trade open and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was trading only price action at that time. And basically I was waiting for a pullback on the S&P, which happened at that time. I think it was April or something. And I bought after the signal I had, but I didn't understand the concept that you could have a perfect setup and still a losing trade. So as soon as price came down, I just kept buying more and kept buying more. Absolutely, like 100% sure that price would go back up. So I just piled the position and of course, it didn't go back up, just went back down even more. So I think I got a margin call on my account at that time. And I think the position were closed by default at some point. So that was the biggest loss of my my trading career.
And a fantastic learning curve, I hope.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to happen again, for sure.
I've been there before. We don't want to be wrong. We see it going down or going against us, and you can add to it thinking, this is it, it's going to go back the other way, and it carries on down, and like you say, you get the margin call.
So the other thing that I think is really dangerous is I used to have the mindset of kind of being able to take my laptop, go to a coffee shop, and trade, and really be serious to make money. But I figured out pretty quickly this doesn't work that much. So you cannot just go to a coffee shop. It's not because you want to trade and you trade seriously now that you're going to make money. So you have to have all these things around. And you need to spend probably more time working on trading after you stop trading, after the day's over. Looking back at how you did. And this is something I didn't do before at all. So if you come into trading with the mindset that you can just take some time today to make 100 pip, whatever, it's going to be very difficult to get into trading unless you've done everything beforehand.
Well, this is something that you learn as you go along. To start with, it does seem like this great situation whereby you can sit down, tap into a few trades, you're out, and then you're off and doing whatever you want. You forget about it. But it's not the case. It is hard work. It really is. And the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it, and the quicker you'll be able to start getting something out of it, I believe. So totally agree with you with that. You saying that about just popping into a coffee shop. There was one situation where when we were in Thailand year before last, I think it was, I was trading suddenly where we are. It's out in the sticks a little bit and the power went down. So I had to quickly put my laptop in my case, jumped on my little motorbike and shot down to this temple, and there's a little cafe attached to that. So that was the one time that I did actually sit in a coffee shop there and traded using their Wi-Fi. Lucky enough, and being a day trader, the markets move very, very fast, so I managed to do that really quickly. Mm-hmm. But even so, doing that, I still kept the journal, and then afterwards it was back home and then checking through everything and looking at everything. You do need to do that homework afterwards and analyse and pull apart what you've done, why you did it, and even why you reacted in a certain way to certain things. That makes a big difference too, I believe. Okay, so do you share your trading results publicly or not?
Yes, I do, but there's some things that I'm thinking about with that topic also. So maybe I just want to highlight 2 points with that part. So yes, I share my trading result, but as you know, I'm big on talking with traders like every day and trying to get new information, all that stuff. And I realized like recently that sharing my trading result on a monthly basis was not the best way to go because of the fact that like, I don't know how many trades I'm going to take in a month, and it's not that relevant if you only take like 4 trades a month and show you result. No. So what I'm thinking of doing now is instead of sharing at the end of every month, because like who cares what a month is? It's just a period of time. So I'm thinking now of maybe sharing more on a like quantity of trade basis. So like every 20 or 30 trade, because that's going to show more the result. And of course it's going to vary, but the other thing that makes me kind of resistant to sharing those trades is the fact that people unfortunately can compare themselves to those results. And I think one of the worst things you can do in trading is to compare your result to other people. So if you like, if I were to look at your result and say, oh, so Kevin made like, I don't know, 5% last week, like it's not good for anything. It's not good at all. So I want to be careful with this. And, but I like to show the result just to show the reality of what it can be like to be a trader. Like not to prove anything to people, but to show people like what could happen. Like you could have like I don't know, 3 months of losing trades. Like that's possible from my style. Or you could have like these like 3 months of winning trade, but it's just to show the reality of what it's like and to kind of document the journey for me.
Yeah, just be open and give people a clear picture of what it's all about. Exactly, and there's no, you know, you're not hyping anything up or hiding anything or glossing it over. It's as it is. So, and what you say about the numbers of trades, and you'll know whenever I trade, every day that I trade, I always put my results at the end of each day purely because of the way that we trade. There are a lot of trades in every session.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're talking about between 5 and 15 trades per session on average, I would imagine. So you've got a story to tell at the end of each day, whereas the longer term stuff that you're doing, obviously, you don't have that each day. You do need to wait for a longer time span before you can actually put something out there that people can see. And like you say, it's so important to put the bad day or the bad months down with the good months as well. It really is. Of course. It really is. Yeah. And always be suspicious of those people that you see with nothing but good. Day after day or week after week.
I kind of see a lot of controversy with that topic of like publishing results, and people, I know some indicators don't put anything online. They don't put the result online. And I think that's fine to a certain point, but I also see that like people ask for them a lot. And if you're going to ask someone's result only to compare yourself to the result, it's not even worth it. It's like, it's a waste of time. And it's probably like bad for you at that point. So you might as well be careful with like the result you see and how you compare yourself to those results.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you, because I'll see people who are joining Kim's Price Action Traders Institute, and, you know, newer members are saying, you know, oh, I didn't make it. How'd you do it? You know, and they're looking at Kim's results, who's been trading for, I don't know, 20 odd years or whatever. And it's her system, her criteria. And she's getting these good results. She'll have her losing weeks and losing days occasionally, like she did last week. But the thing is, those newer members, they are looking to do exactly the same as what Kim's doing right from the start. And it's absolutely impossible. It really is. And it can make them feel down, but she's there to reassure them and tell them, you know, don't do that. You know, don't compare your results with mine, because it's a totally different picture. It really is. So moving ahead, goals and plans. What goals and plans do you have for the future, Etienne?
It's a little bit blurry right now, so I'm not exactly sure, but I definitely want to travel more because this is what kind of keeps me going. And I started to do these videos while traveling, which I really love. I know it's taking a lot of time, but I love to do these, so I'm going to continue doing those. And like the basic thing for me is to keep trading and making an impact on people. So as long as I can have a positive impact through my podcast or through the videos I do, I'm really happy anyway. So that's my main goal. And
that sounds great.
I think I've always been about kind of standing out, so doing things differently from other people, which is what I want to continue doing. So whether that's going to be like helping people, doing public speaking, whatever, but just to stand out from the crowd and do something that most people who do a 9 to 5 won't do, basically.
Sounds great. It really does. Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice on how to thrive as a trader, what would that one piece of advice be?
Man, this is the toughest question. I don't know why I ask my guests this question all the time. It's tough.
I think it's a great one. It really is, because it's a big help and it's different aspects from different people. So come on, tell us what it is. That one piece of advice that you would give.
All right, it's going to be 2 sentences though. So consistent action leads to consistent result. Okay. Plan, trade, review, act, but never, ever, ever compare yourself to other people.
Fantastic. That sounds great, Etienne. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for letting me hijack your show. And I know that your listeners are going to enjoy this because, like you say, people have been asking for this for a long time, and it's good to hear your perspective and your points of view after all this time. So keep up the good work, Etienne. I really do enjoy the podcast, and I'll hand the reins back over to you now. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it a lot. There you have it, guys. That was my interview on the podcast. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you got some value and that you can get inspiration from this. Once again, a big thank you to Kevin for accepting to do this interview and to be such a good podcast host. As always, if you want to connect with me after the show, check out the Facebook group over at desiredtotrade.com/group. I would love to connect with you there. I also recommend you take a look at the daily videos that are posted there and on the YouTube channel. Those are meant to be a daily inspiration and something to keep you moving forward towards standing out and reaching your goals. As always, I'll see you guys next week for the next episode of the Desire to Trade podcast. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Desire to Trade podcast. To get all the information on this show, free articles, and unique resources, make sure to check out www.desiredtotrade.com and subscribe. Please leave us a review and let us know what you thought about the show. It's time to become the best trader you can be. See you next time.